This conference will now be recorded.
It is now.
12 o'clock noon. This is the meeting of the Historic Preservation Board on November the 17th. At this time, I'd like to have someone call the roll.
Fanchen, are you available? If not, I can do it.
All right.
I'll get started then. Jennifer Knott.
Here.
Linda Anderson.
Here.
George Mason.
Here.
Bob Alexander.
Here.
Miss Rhonda Bourne.
No.
Okay,
Rhonda, you're on mute.
There she is. We appear to have a caller as well.
I think that's Fanchen's line.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right, let's get this meeting started. Please silence all mobile devices. I don't know who's controlling the display here.
I am. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
You're not doing your due diligence.
I'm sorry. Trying to see if I could help Rhonda on my end.
Okay. Okay, we have two items for individual consideration. I'm guessing number one would be to receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the minutes from the November 3rd, 2020 meeting. Mr. Medina?
Yes, sir. I don't have anything on the minutes, just simple review and approval pending any modifications.
Has everyone read the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
I read them, but I will abstain from voting since I was not present.
Well, okay. Anyone
This
have
is
any comments? There being none, any discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Jennifer Knott. I make a motion to accept the minutes from the November 3rd, 2020 meeting as they are written.
Have a second?
This is Bob Alexander. I second.
Okay, that being the case, all in favor say aye. You have to have a roll call, I guess. Jennifer?
Aye.
Rhonda? Rhonda, are you there? Bob?
Aye.
Linda?
Yes, sir.
Rhonda? Those opposed? There being none, then the minutes are approved and end of the history. We'll now go on to item number 2. Receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to paint the structure at 500 West Woodard Street. Case number 2020-063H. Case number, let's repeat it again. I am going to have to recuse myself from this discussion. Mr. Medina, I'll be off to the side listening, so whenever I can come back in, you just let me know.
That sounds
Linda,
good.
I'd like Linda to take over this since you're the assistant chairman.
I shall.
All right, thank you. Give me a holler when I come back.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Medina, would you like to provide us with background on this case, please?
Yes, ma'am. So at our last meeting, this was on the 3rd of November. The applicant came through the Historic Preservation Board and was requesting to repaint the rear structure here at 500 West Woodard. It's the building that faces Fannin, outlined here. And that's a better picture of the front facade. These are the colors that were previously approved back in May. However, the applicant wished to repaint the structure to these colors here, which is, I think, Sunday brunch, a teal for the trim, Sunday brunch for the facade, and then white sash for some other trim. These are the current newly proposed colors. Like I was mentioning at the last meeting, these colors here with Sunday brunch, this collection of colors was tabled for this week. The applicant has began painting. You can kind of see it off to the side. It's a white color, or it's just white. I couldn't get the actual color name or number from the applicant. However, that's already on the facade. The blue peacock is what she is proposing to paint the trim, and the chartreuse is what she would like to paint the door of the building. Given that these are a little bit more muted and more aren't as bright colors, I think that they should fit in more with the neighborhood. You know, at our last meeting, we talked at length about the applicant submitting these to staff and setting up a meeting with one or two of the board members, Historic Preservation Board members, and kind of pursuing alternatives. We weren't able to achieve that meeting, even though I tried myself, trying to reach out and set that up. We weren't able to really make that happen as best as we tried. Speaking with our city manager, I think the colors in front of you right now we both think these are probably going to be the best, I guess, alternatives that we're going to get working with the applicant. So we recommend approval, and I'm present for any questions that you may have.
Bill, I have a question. Is the chartreuse a true chartreuse? It looks gray on my screen.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I think it's hard to tell from the picture that was sent in on my end too. It does look like it's kind of, I guess another word for gray, just kind of muted a little bit more. Just because I don't have actual paint chips, I couldn't get another photo for you. So
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for that.
But that's the door.
Yes, that would be the door, and the blue peacock would be the trim.
Is there any discussion from the board about these two colors, or do you desire any more clarification? Mr. Medina, this is Linda. Did I read in the long minutes from the last meeting that in fact perhaps the painting shouldn't have begun already? I mean, I know it's a moot point now, but did I read that? And was that, and in fact, that might be a precedent?
That's correct, Vice Chairwoman. That's definitely something that you read correctly. And, you know, we're not going to pursue finding the applicant. The applicant also started working on the building, making a separate addition, which is now complete without obtaining a building permit. They've since obtained the building permit and done other work, you know, without those city approvals. So you're correct. They have done quite a bit of work without first receiving approval. I share that concern with you that it also could set a precedent. However, I don't think that there's anything on my end that I could really do to try to take action on this particular case.
This is Linda. Given that information, what I've read, what I understand in the current situation, I need to approve the repainting of the structure at 500 West Woodard Street. I second that. It's called a question. Mr. Alexander,
No questions.
why don't you just identify yourself and say yay or nay, since I can't see you.
This is Rhonda Bourne. Yay.
Thank you.
This is Jennifer Knott. This is Jennifer Knott. Yay.
Bob Alexander, yay.
Linda Anderson, yay.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
The motion carries.
George.
Sir,
George, yes.
thank you.
Be sure that laughter's in the minutes.
Yeah.
This Assistant Vice Chairwoman, I appreciate you taking over on that.
Welcome back.
Wish you were here at the last meeting, but that's okay.
Mhm.
Mr. Medina, is it appropriate for me to make my comments at this point, or should I adjourn first?
No, I believe as long as we're not taking any action, that it's appropriate to have a discussion with the board, before we adjourn. Fanchen, if you can hear us, George just wanted to just have a discussion about the Historic Preservation Board and some of our processes. Is that okay with you?
Sure, we can do that. If you guys decide that you want to take your notes today, George, if you guys want to have a big discussion or take a deeper discussion, deeper dive, and if we want to take action in the future, we can always add it to a future agenda. But there's definitely no issue in the chair addressing the board.
Great, thank you. First, let me start by saying I really appreciate you all participating on this board. I know that you're taking your duties very seriously. I've seen that already. What surprised me personally is I did not understand the scope of the historic district in Denison. It seems to encompass a lot more land than I thought. This comes indirectly from a brochure that's put out on the Arts and Cultural District. And I don't know if this is accurate, Mr. Medina, but it looks like it encompasses the south side of Gandy Street down to the north side of Crawford Street. And from the railroad line or crossing on the east side of town over to Armstrong Street. So it's a much bigger district than I thought. Part of our charge is to maintain the character of that historic district. And that means, seeing that people aren't altering buildings in such a way that they no longer conform as an historic building, and making certain that the colors used in the case of painting buildings is appropriate for the time period or the district. And I see you've all taken that pretty seriously, and I appreciate that. I know that some people are working on coming up with a palette of acceptable colors, and that will probably be seen in the future. What we've experienced recently was kind of trying for me, and I think everybody else that was on the board, and it was handled, I think, quite well. So I appreciate your efforts on that end. One of the things that we ran into down in the 100 block was the use of appropriate colors for the surrounding environs. Someone wanted to use some really wild colors, and it just didn't seem like it was the right idea. And we worked with the building owner and managed to come up with some appropriate colors, and I think it's going to look great. So I just want you to keep in mind what it means to be overseeing an historic district in a town like Denison. It's very important that we maintain the character of this town. So any input from you folks, comments?
George, I agree. And this is Linda. And I think it is appropriate that we look or discern what that larger area is and proceed responsibly as we have been, knowing that the area is perhaps bigger than we had thought. And I have been impressed and appreciate the guidance that we've gotten from the city in that regard. And Mr. Medina, if you'll carry on with that, that would be great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You that can see our screen here. I've pulled up our interactive map. It might be difficult to see, but it's this blue line, this light blue teal color that goes up, like George was saying, through Gandy. It actually comes out a little bit to the east, picks up the Travelers Hotel, and then back downtown, all the way down to Crawford, and then loops back, connects up to Woodard.
Right.
It's about 4 square blocks. I'm not sorry, not 4 square blocks. It's
almost 5 or 6.
yeah.
It's,
This is Rhonda Bourne. On a similar note, can everyone hear me, by the way? Sorry, I had trouble connecting earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I can hear you.
I had a couple of questions along the same lines. One was regarding, I know we are not an HOA technically, however, we do somewhat operate that way as we are looking out for neighbors, you know, not having trucks up on cinder blocks in the lawn, things like that, if we were part of a normal neighborhood, right?
yes.
So with that, and I think anyway, this cannot be necessarily mandated, but is there an accountability for buildings that have been somewhat neglected, that they have ownership, they have, you know, they have maintenance, you know, over it, just like, again, an HOA, but is there a way to maybe, I don't know, encourage or, I mean, is that part of the board's function at all to, you know, we're seeing so many storefronts freshening up. It makes such a nice difference. That sort of thing will also, you know, be in addition to the magnetism that downtown Denison is already starting to establish. I mean, being in real estate, I've watched the corridor push up, and it's amazing. And the steam that you want is definitely occurring, that momentum. So with that, I'm curious about that. I apologize if I'm just not familiar with it, but can anyone help me understand that aspect, just maintenance?
This is Linda Anderson, and in fact, in the last few months, this board has addressed, along with the city, a building that is in the 100 block that is in danger of demolition by neglect. And yes, the Historic Preservation Board does, in fact, have some parvenu over that situation. In that case, and Mr. Medina can elaborate on this, in that case, there were multiple interactions with the city and code enforcement and the owner. And I believe, Mr. Medina, that process continues.
Yes, that is correct. I have the building pulled up now on Google. It's this one right here. We refer to it as the Driggs building, just in the office as shorthand, if you hear us talking about that. And basically, what Linda was saying is correct. This building here is at risk of either falling in on itself or on some of the pedestrian traffic or vehicular traffic. It's hard to see from some of this photo, but you can actually see chunks of bricks falling out. We've reviewed a full engineering report that shows the condition of the building, and it's a public safety hazard. So this body deemed this structure to be demolition by neglect. And that's a formal action that allows the city, if we deemed necessary, to start fining the applicant on a daily basis for not maintaining their building. That being said, the challenge with this structure here, as we're still working through, is that it's changed ownership about, I believe, twice since that demolition by neglect order. So it's challenging for us to work with the applicant or the building owner on fixing the building and at least making it safe when it's changing hands. And as soon as that somebody finds out it's demolition by neglect and it has some serious structural integrity issues, they are trying to sell it as quickly as they can. In short, we work very closely with our code enforcement, Rhonda. That's like our eyes and ears downtown, basically, that'll help have some of these people meet with us to pursue fixing their building. This is one of the more extreme cases, but some of the other cases would be like chipping paint, right? Well, they'll come in so they can repaint their facade, or their awning is falling apart. That's what you're seeing now on this building here. This awning is falling apart. Same thing, falling on the right of way. Code enforcement wrote them warnings that hey, you need to fix your awning. Well, they came in and actually this board approved maintaining and changing a lot of this facade and changing the awning as well. Does that help answer your question?
Building on the corner, Bill, that is going to be demolished and a new building put up.
So here, this building right here?
Yes.
Yeah, so this board also recommended approval to demolish this building. Now, you did just approve the concept of the idea, so the applicant can start really formalizing plans. Whenever they have full demolition plans with complete building and site plan, then we'll get that approved at the same time. That way we're not leaving a large gap on Main Street for too long. Actually, I just wrote a COA for the applicant maybe last week. They're gonna want to take off some of this paint because it's chipping and falling apart and see if any of that brick is salvageable. I don't know if it is, but they're actually starting to make some moves there, make some first couple steps.
I'd like to add one other thing, Mr. Medina. With the older buildings on Main Street, for example, in the 400 block where I live, a lot of the buildings were kind of added on to the building next to them. So the buildings share a wall. So if a building collapses, not only does it affect that building, but it affects the two surrounding buildings as well. So it's good that if you see something that's not right or see a problem, you need to let this board or Mr. Medina know about that. That's kind of serious. We did have one building in the alley back here next to the Rialto. The rear end of the building actually collapsed into the alley.
Was this recent?
No, this was like 3 years ago, maybe longer. But the whole back end of that building next to the Rialto had collapsed. They were working on remortaring it, and when they applied the mortar and water, it weakened the existing mortar, and the whole thing just collapsed during the night. So it's a real danger. And like I said, if you see anything that's out of order or doesn't look good, you need to let us know.
Yeah, even if it's and I've had other board members do this too. Take a picture. Hey, Bill, am I at 300 West Main and I see X, Y, and Z? You can just text it to me, and we can track down a contact and see if we can get them to either come into compliance or at least apply for a COA, and we can kind of understand what they're doing. And if it's major, then we'll bring it before the board.
Any other comments or discussion?
This is Bob. I'm hoping we could get a copy, George, of what we're looking at now, the boundaries for the historic district.
It just so happens that Mary Karam has a bunch of the brochures down in the gallery that if you want to stop by, we can get one to you. She's open Wednesday through Friday in the afternoons and most of the day on Saturday.
Okay.
All right. So I found it very informative. Anyhow, is there any more discussion or comments? That being the case, I declare the meeting over.
Thank you, everybody.
I've got my hammer
Thank
here.
you.